For me, as a matter of principle, I separate people who have. It's not blanket to say people have worked under Jame. We have a government, and government has civil service. We have politicians and we have policymakers. These are three-tier system of government. Now, permanent secretary is down to the last person, the cleaner. They are operatives who are acting on policies that are drafted from there above.
Yeah.
Right?
From the cabinet. Now,
and anybody who is operating at policy level essentially is involved in directing the government. That person cannot divorce himself to the ultimate outcome that government produces. That's my position. And I think that, like the poet Khalil Gibran says, if you are going to bring a cheating wife before to judgment, you should equally weigh the heart of the husband in scale.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And for me, it's unfair that you have the only people who have to the opportunity to remake themselves are the elites, the intellectuals, the people who serve at the top level, and the average operative, the soldier, the NIA operative, are the ones who no one can protect, are the only one who have got to be vilified and accused of this and accused of that. For me, all those who have operated at policy levels, defended and protected abuse of human rights, are equally culpable as the security operatives who went and murdered people. Because this is an architecture that they've contributed in establishing that is doing. Now that's different from a permanent secretary. A permanent secretary is a civil servant or whatever who is in charge of a particular section of government. Implementing is an everyday civil servant. It's an everyday person.
Yeah.
Or a director. Now, but when you are now involved in effectively representing that government, I think you should be held responsible, in principle, for the outcome of that government. Now, think about it. Yakuba Baji, for example, was arrested. Solo Sunday was picked up on the street, was taken into NIA because he was beaten to death. Usman Sonko was not there. In fact, if you read Usman Sonko when he was arrested in Switzerland, he was arrested with a small note he scribbled for his asylum. You remember? I wrote it on the Standard. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And part of the things he was saying there was that he didn't order the torture of Usman. He was picked up, and he said Jame was not satisfied with the way he handled the protest, even though he later claimed the note was not true. He wrote it, he just wanted to seek asylum for it. But we both know the note was, I think,
definitely true.
I think the note was true. Now, so Usman was not involved in torturing people.
Not directly.
Not directly. Yakubu Baji, the director of NIA, was not involved in torturing people. Not directly. Because even the people, the video, at least he was not. Junglers are the ones who tortured people. So a lot of them, but under their directive and in absence of their directives, under a situation, environment they created. Or under an environment they were present but failed to do something about it. Because the crime is not only committed because you did it physically, but it's also committed because you see it and you fail to do something. And it's within your power to do something. Now, dissent is a form of protest. To say, I am not doing it, I'm not going to be part of this. It's a form of protest. And I understand this whataboutism started in 2017 when UDP initially came in and took advantages to took some of the Jame guys on board, and people talk and they said no, but they have right to association. And now when they are also saying, no, but this guy, and people are saying, but you said they have right to association. So that whataboutism will continue forever. But at some point it has to stop. At some point someone has to stand and say, no, let's build a country on principles. And say, I am not saying victimize anybody who had participated on the Jame regime. But if you have in any way endorsed human rights violations, or any way participated, or in any way seemed to have was in a position where you could have stopped or could have voiced your disagreement and failed to do so, government shouldn't hire that person or endorse that person for any job. And that includes Fatou Bensouda. Fatou Bensouda should not have had government endorsement. Yes, because she was involved. She was, if I get it right, I think she was the justice minister when Almamo Mane and others were killed.
Only that the government that
yes, I know, but you see the interview with Deutsche Welle.
Yes.
Yeah? It was a very tough interview for her. You see? Yeah. We have to build a society based on principles where, regardless of who people are, their basic rights will be protected, regardless of who we think they are. So, and that principle has to start from somewhere. So even if you are a senior policy maker, you have to take principled stance on people. Now, okay, if you have, for example, let's say Sidin Jai, you remember in 2015 April, Jame was in Turkey, OIC, when the Solo Sandem protest started. Right? He was in Turkey. And when Jame came, there was a march. We covered it at the Standard. There was a march welcoming Jame, and people participated there. Yakuba Kolisi Dinjai, all these guys, Faba Kartumbo Njata and others. They participated in welcoming Jame as a sort of force to show APRC is not weak. There is no protest. This is just by a tiny fraction.
That's what they always do.
Exactly.
Downplay.
Now, how fair do you have a society where, okay, now that Sidin Jai comes to now speak on transitional justice, and he is now quoting incarceration of Yankuba Baji, who is incarcerated for the murder of Solo Sandeng, which he endorsed and did a march to welcome Jame, right? And now calling that as we are prosecuting people for Jame era crimes. That's morally troubling.
That is politics.
But Cham, this is our lives shouldn't be about politics. Our lives should be about justice. Now, I'm not saying a permanent secretary is person who execute orders and a person who execute policies. A soldier is a person who execute orders. Oya was executing orders, regardless of however illegal those orders were. But remember, it was Jame was the custodian of state power. He was elected president. He issued orders to a military manager, go and execute the party. That was a direct order. Now, for me, Oya is better. I would forgive Oya, honestly, and I think I do. I still do forgive him. Than a person who was at that policy level. So, because Oya had no choice, he either had to kill
or be killed.
He doesn't even have the resources to go and live outside. Those guys are poor people. I mean, you've met the junglers.
Yes, several of them.
They are poor. Like, those guys have nothing.
They got
really. I mean, you could see after killing of Deda Hydra, you saw Malik Jada what he was saying. We score, I think, $1,000. He said. We score. Yeah, but he said we score $1,000. I think. Now, can you think how much is $1,000 at that time? It was no money at all. Exactly. But the people who are implementing, who are part of defending that system, the system was the one that made Oya a criminal. He went in the military to become a soldier.
Yeah.
The system turned him into a killer.
Yeah.
And that system is sustained by intellectuals. I cannot forgive those intellectuals and turn around and say, Oya was a murderer, he was a jungler, he was a... So what? He was a jungler. He was killing on orders of the president of the republic. And, but the person who is executed, Tangara was a minister of state. And from there, he was also at the UN. So I cannot in good conscience endorse that. I'm not saying he shouldn't be endorsed, but I cannot endorse that. And if I am in any position, I wouldn't have any such person employed. A permanent secretary downwards, I understand that person is working, is a civil servant. But anybody who operated at policy level saw those right violations, endorse them, because by your participation, you've endorsed those right violations.
How could they have oppose those things and
they could have
remain
left.
in government?
They could have you don't have to remain in government, Cham. You and I are not working in the government. He never worked in government except when you were a minister, right? Exactly, but he worked only once. But you and I never worked in government. We're still alive.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't have to work in government. It's not, I mean, it's not an entitlement to work in government. Is a privilege.
You need to leave his government.
No, you can leave. You can say, Mr. President, look,
if you know too much.
There is a normal, under Jammeh operated two systems. There was a usual government, which has its own pops and pageantry. Usual government. And the usual government was doing usual things usual governments do. But then, you have to separate that from the unusual government that he had. And that is where Jammeh operated. And if you are a permanent secretary downwards, you are in that usual government. Yeah, but the government that does projects, that goes and builds schools, that goes and talks about education, that's a usual government. Now that's not what I'm talking about. Now, but when you are involved in defending the policy directions of the government, you are both an embodiment of that usual and unusual government. I cannot endorse that.
Well, what do you
I don't think that is right.
What do you make of arguments that singling him out from among many people who could have been, culpable in the same circumstances is unfair?
No, how I treat that? No, it's not unfair. You see how I treat that? It's like when somebody says, okay, in those days, like I talked about this so-called whataboutism. So for example, in those days when somebody says, we've seen this vicious circle. So for example, I'll give a few examples. Excuse me if I name names. So for example, let's say Sabali was at UDP. And UDP talks about Sidinjai and there, but you also have your Sidinjai, you have Sabali, and NPP and UDP keeps trading this kind of things. Now, at some point, someone has to refuse to be tempted by that and look at every case independently. Now, you can say, well, how about Fatou Bensouda? But that's besides the point. The point is we will independently judge Fatou Bensouda in her unique case. And I have told you, I personally am against her appointment. I'm against Gambia government endorsing her because I believe she is partly responsible for what happened here. Yes, and even when she was the prosecutor, she went quiet on Gambia's case.
Well, she said the atrocities at the time didn't reach the threshold,
That's what, yes. But ICC those issue warnings. Even the UN part of the UN this thing on genocide. They don't only wait until genocide is committed. They issue warnings. Even when Jammeh made that famous remarks in Talending, Jan issued a warning. Exactly. Now the people, and especially you are a Gambian, you're not just any other person, you are a Gambian. You can speak on matters relating to Gambia. Now we have to hold those people responsible at a different varying degree for what happened. If you see a wrong happening, you have an option to talk about it. You can condemn it. Even Islam, they said the weakest faith is the one who sees something
and don't talk about it.
and may not do anything about it, but had it in his heart. And if you dislike something in your heart, you won't be involved in it. So you don't have to be against Jammeh. What I am saying is, in these cases have to be separated. We have to bring Fatou Bensouda's case independently and speak on that. We have to bring Tangara's case independently and speak on that, and bring other people's case independently and speak on that.
What about the chairman of the president of the ECOWAS Commission? He too was.
What did the president of ECOWAS Commission did?
Well, if the Red Stick is association with the Jammeh regime, he was part of the Jammeh regime, isn't it? Was it?
No, but I think we have.
What has he done? But there are in different degrees, different degrees at which people are involved. And there are different things that they were involved in doing. Right. And there are people who, I mean, come on, Jam. I mean, some of these people have the option, have participated, and they were voices for Jammeh at the international stage. When people have crowd foul about human rights violations in the Gambia, they defended it. They said, no, there is no human rights violation in the Gambia. And they were the forefront of that.
But that
is wrong.
He's been pressed also for being among the people who abandoned Jammeh after he lost the election.
That was not abandoning Jammeh.
After he lost, probably he was looking for another opportunity.
That was not abandoning Jammeh. We cannot allow Jam, in principle. Now, tell me, the security officers who have committed human rights violations under Jammeh, they have no opportunity to remake themselves. Borakoli just came. Everyone is asking for him to be arrested. Because, of course, he was involved in execution. Now, those people were killing. What were they maintaining?
Jammeh, of course.
Jammeh. And who were the biggest beneficiaries? The elites who were serving the government. The military soldier. I told you, I went to Malik's house. I went there. I even wrote about it, yes. Malik, in fact, there are things, those guys are broke. I don't need to say all those things, but those guys don't have anything. In fact, to show you how paranoid Malik was, I told him that I wanted to ease myself. He led me into his brother's house. There was this bathroom inside the room, and he stood at the gate waiting for me to come out.
He was a soldier. He's always a soldier.
Yeah, but we have always a soldier. But it tells you, you have to be in his head. It tells you how paranoid those people are.
That's right.
They have to live looking over their shoulders all the time. But the same person who protected, defended, sell the good image of that government, that has remade himself and became the president, or maybe become vice president, or become something better, or minister. And this other soldier, so you have to stop talking about transitional justice, stop talking about justice, because that's not justice, that's vengeance now. You have separated people, you are punishing other people, and you are not punishing other people. That is vengeance.